Why do you need exit on a stop clock? Here we go. Hey.
And we're off.
Okay, do you want to bring us in
Yeah,
on this
I will
one?
do on this one. Hello and welcome back to the Renewables podcast. We're here today for a bit of therapy for installers out there. But before we get to that, how are you doing, Sam?
I'm good. I'm so ready for this conversation. We had a long conversation before the filming this and realised shortly after we'd finished that conversation that we should just have recorded it, because I've had another conversation this evening with Dan from DMH about this very topic, and I think it's good to air what we're going to talk about today, because a lot of people ebb and flow in the solar game.
Oh, 100%, and we're definitely doing that ourselves. I think everyone who's out there will be exactly the same, so it's quite a relevant conversation. But before we get to that stage, we do need to remember to talk about our sponsors and the installer show. We say this pre every recording. We need to remember to say this, and we get into the chat and forget. So we're doing it early on here. And just to say, our supporters at Proteus are absolute legends, and they have got some cool new products. There's the Type D RCBOs now in their range. They've had the Bs and Cs for quite a while. The Ds just launched. Obviously, they're more rare that you're going to be using those, but if you're installing motor circuits or you've got some big banks of lighting circuits maybe where you need that coverage for your inrush currents, they are useful to have in the range. And Sam's got a B version there, but the same sort of size and scope.
They are, and the B types. I was just looking at the size of that. That's basically like the size of an MCB now, and bidirectional Type A. Just they are really, really good, and I'm not just saying that because we're sponsored by them. They're fantastic.
Now you've adopted installing them into your business, and we've been fitting them for a good old while. And as you say, it's just the range. There's the Type B RCBOs that we've mentioned on other versions of the podcast, but they do also have the 4-pole 3-module RCBOs, which are really useful if you're fitting EV chargers on 3-phase systems. Before, you'd usually have to have a separate enclosure for your RCD or a bespoke board that Proteus used to do with a little top bit that you could put your RCDs in. Now you don't need to do any of that. It just goes into the spine board, really simple and straightforward. They're not that expensive either in the grand schemes of 3-phase RCD protection. And yeah, they've just got a massive range of gear. Go and check them out if you've not seen it already. They're in cities everywhere.
It's such a good point, because cities are everywhere, which means if you're ever short of anything, you can guarantee that you'll either be able to get it that day or you can order online and get it the following day. It's unbelievable.
It is. I was short of some brass screws for conduit boxes. I'd left them in a tray in a loft somewhere probably, and I was like, what am I going to do? Straight on the internet to cities down there, and they had thousands in stock, and it's problem solved, in it. So I think that's the default approach for lots of us out there when you're missing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're working nationwide.
Yeah.
It's very tricky.
And then we've got the installer show as well, and we're part of that this year. That's something that we're really excited about, but they are helping us out with the space there, and we do want to talk about the actual event, and hopefully some of you guys and girls will go and sign up. There'll be a link in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this to go off, because you have to register if you want to attend. It is free, but because it's at the NEC, you need a pass. It's a restricted, secure area. If you want to get in the show, you're going to need one. So make sure you go off and do that. We'll be there on our stand. We've got a few exciting little things that we're plotting and planning, but more widely, there is so many brands and industry bodies there, from plumbing, electrical, even down to brickies and gardening. It is the installer show for all of construction.
Yeah, and I think, are we near Milwaukee or something like that as well?
We are. Hopefully get some freebies. We'll get there early in the morning and we'll raid their stall before.
See, I'm a DeWalt man, but, I'm not going to hold that against them. But no, there's such a wide range of stuff there that it'll be so interesting. Hopefully we have a bit of time to look around ourselves as well. But I'm really excited to have the good conversation with people that watch this, introduce new people to what we do here at the Renewables podcast, and probably pick up some more ideas for some more episodes as well, because there's so much to talk about in renewables, and I love having this conversation.
That tends to be what happens, doesn't it? We spill into other areas of chat from speaking with people at these shows. And we're going to have some of our own merch there as well when we're running our little sessions. We still yet to fully define what they are going to be. But if you want a T-shirt like Sam's modelling over there, we'll be passing a few of those out, along with mugs and books and pens and all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, it'd be good.
But
I've
now,
placed the order.
yeah, now we can get into the therapy session, and it's kind of the solar coaster that Sam's mentioned. We have chatted around it before, but I think we're at an extreme. I'm certainly seeing it. I've thought this solar coaster is a bit of a myth. Been in the industry a couple of years. It's like it seems pretty steady. It's a bit up and down, but of late, it's like, geez.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to explain what the solar coaster is and where it came from, like the term. And my interpretation of it from being in the industry when, as an apprentice, when the feed-in tariff was around, was the solar coaster was around when the rates for solar were about to be dropped. So what you used to get was, let's start right at the beginning. So 43 pence was around, I'm sure that's where it started. I was very young at the time when it came out, so I might have got the figure slightly wrong. But it was about 43 pence, and you'd be pretty busy fitting solar PV along that 43 pence wave, or a straight bit of track if we're doing like a roller coaster. And then what used to happen was the government would release the decision that they were going to drop the tariff, and I believe it was based on the amount of installed capacity that had happened. So they'd basically say after X amount of megawatt hours that had been installed, the tariff will drop to the next 41p. I think was after that, or somewhere around there, 38p. It kind of dropped in stages. And so what you used to get was everyone that's been sat on the fence as to whether or not to get solar, because it was a decent investment back then. It was, for a 3.68 kilowatt system we've mentioned before, it was about 15, 16 grand in some cases for that size system. But the payback was there because you were getting that feed-in tariff amount. And so the solar coaster was that as soon as they announced that drop, suddenly every solar company was stacked out with work, because everyone that had been sat on the fence, suddenly it gave them that impetus to actually go, I'm going to do this now, because if I don't, I'm going to miss out on this 43 pence thing, and that's going to affect my payback by X amount of years. And obviously, as soon as it's paid back, that's going to affect how much I get paid every year. Mm-hmm. So the solar, so you'd be riding along pretty busy, and then suddenly it would just go up. The work would just absolutely fly, and you'd be trying to do multiple installs. Like some companies were doing multiple installs a day, and that's where we see some of the issues potentially around the quality. But regardless, there was installs going in all over the country, and it would have this massive rise. So that was the solar coaster. It was going up. As soon as that deadline hit of when the last generation meters could be registered, and there are stories, unconfirmed of course, that the word generation meters registered before the tariff was due to end, but they may or may not have been not actually installed, and maybe it might have been caught up in the weeks after. But I would have no experience of that. So we're definitely getting sued on that.
Moves getting pulled.
But as soon as that tariff dropped, the work was quiet, because then suddenly no one was that interested, because everyone that hadn't got the install done was kind of annoyed that they hadn't pulled the trigger earlier and got the install done. And everyone that was sat on the fence that you might have been working on to try and get the jobs over the line had the impetus to do it, so they had got their install now. So then you'd have this lull of sometimes 3-4 months of just people not really being that bothered about getting solar, even though it's still a really good investment. It only gone down 3 pence, 4 pence per kilowatt hour, and you'd snap someone's hand off for that now. But it was just the feeling around it. So then suddenly you'd come from this massive high of all this work to suddenly back down to there being hardly any, because people were kind of out. It was out of fashion again, and then that would slowly build again, and then you were back up to the next tariff drop, and then so that was the solar coaster from its kind of where it came from.
What do you think drives it now then? Is it the weather? Is it energy markets? Is it new tech that people are waiting for? Because I think, I'm just going to say for the minute, I think it's definitely the weather playing a part. The sun's come out, and we've had a lot of people confirm on their orders. But we was kind of back in February, I was starting to think, well, maybe I have to go back to a bit more contracting. Maybe we'll do 3 days a week of that and allocate 2 days to the renewables, because we're still across sectors in our business, because we had a lot of proposals out and not many people going ahead with them. And we've just had, when the sun's popped out, a lot of people I'd written off thinking they're not going to go ahead. And you can only hassle them so many times with email reminders to ask, are you still interested in this system? And they've come forward and like, yeah, we want to go ahead with that. So I think that's what that is. But we do have some customers sat there who were maybe waiting for the next new product, and we all go down those avenues when whether it's a smartphone or a laptop. If you know something's new coming, you'll wait a couple of months for it, won't you, rather than spend your money. And I wonder if that's an element out there too.
Yeah, I think it moved. It was almost like quite a simple analysis back in the day because it was completely linked to the tariff, because that was where a lot of people that I was fitting for as an apprentice and then as an electrician under the flag of the company I used to work for, weren't even really that interested in trying to use any of the solar power because they were out during the day. Batteries were an absolute fortune. So they weren't bothered where that energy went. They just were looking more at the feed-in tariff. So the tariff was the be-all and end-all of a lot of people getting solar. Whereas now, it's based on so many variables. Weather has a massive part of it, has a massive thing. People get through the winter and they kind of see their energy bills over the winter and go, wow, we spent a lot last quarter on energy. We need to do something about this. And as it starts to get a bit sunnier, kind of this time as we're filming now, sort of heading into April, people are kind of like, it's a bit nicer weather, isn't it? And they've maybe recovered from Christmas and New Year, so there's a bit more money in the pot and all that. And they kind of look at that nice big south-facing roof, the sort of thing I dream about in my dreams of a nice big concrete tile south-facing roof with loads of space and no windows or Velux window or anything like that. Really nice, no vents. To see that roof and go, you know what, that would look really good with these nice sleek black panels. And I'm thinking of getting an EV. So actually, my energy is going to go up even more. So actually, what if I get solar? And I think it's different for everybody because some people are looking at getting a heat pump. Some people are looking at getting an EV. Some people just want to impact a high energy usage because they've got electrical underfloor heating. There's so many different reasons why someone's interested now. And the point you made about the equipment is that, yeah, people look at a new YouTube video of a new piece of equipment and go, wow, that solves my problem. Because another thing is the backup side. Like that was kind of unheard of, really, back in, well, not unheard of, but it was nowhere near as popular as what it is now. There's so many different things now, but of course that then makes this solar coaster even more unpredictable because when it can be linked to so many different reasons why someone might go ahead, suddenly it's very hard to track. Like the company I used to work for knew that there was a lull coming because they knew that the deadline ended on X date. So they knew that they've got to try and factor in some more work for that lull because they've been through it 2 or 3 times before already. Whereas now you can kind of guess that it's going to be there's going to be a lull during the end of the year, and the start of the year is always a bit tough. But then as the sun comes out, it's probably going to be fairly good. But there's the budget, there's loads of different things, isn't there, that can affect it?
There is, and it's one of them where it's so hard to predict, not just for us as installers, but for the supply chain as well, because they obviously need to stock and prepare for that. And I was in one of Give Energy's warehouses last week, and it's absolutely ginormous. And the guy who works in there is, this place will be cleaned out in a month. It's all going out into the wholesale network for the summer period. So they're all trying to stock this stuff that they think we might want. But as you've said, if a YouTube video or a launch product to install a show or solar and storage or something comes out and all the customers suddenly want that thing, a lot of that stock might become obsolete quite fast. It's difficult for everyone in that space, and that solar coaster affects more than just us as installers, as Sarah from Waxman explained. And panel prices I've seen going up. We were paying like 30% less on our panels. We've got a secured supply on that, but it's going up in the 3rd, 4th quarters of this year to 30% higher. And listening around the chat, even back maybe into like £100 plus per panel range has been the normal. Those kind of things are going to impact on delivered system costs. It's consumers who are going to pay for it, or maybe scale their arrays down to kind of counteract against it. So it's really quite difficult. And the solar coaster, when you're in it, it can be quite downtrodden, I would think, because we was in that kind of mind frame where I'd been putting a lot of proposals out over the winter, and you think, well, no one's going ahead with these. It's hard work, and I know the chat had we before. You kind of in that mindset a bit yourself. I think it's like can be quite hard on yourself because you're doing everything right, but not getting the results if you want.
Yeah. Exactly where I'm at now. You know, we're pumping just, what was it? I think we had the other week, to try and hit our response times, which were above where we wanted them to be anyway. We had to get some like 30 odd, was it like 31 prices out or something for people that were overdue the wait time. So we're pumping all these out, and you think, right, okay, well, even if 10% even if we get a 10% hit rate, that's 3 jobs that we're going to confirm, and then you don't hear of any of them, and you're like, what's going on here? And you put that extra time in to get those out, and accompany it with a video and all this other stuff to try and gain that extra couple of percent over maybe a competitor, or even just sometimes justifying it to a customer, because it's very hard for them to justify it off a piece of paper. Sometimes a video helps, or a link to a YouTube video, or just a conversation on the phone. So you put all this time in, and I've been in this long enough to know that is the game, but it doesn't make it easier when you don't get that feedback of the confirmed jobs. We're in a weird position at the minute, and this is what kind of drove me to talk to you about this beforehand. And others will definitely be in this position, because I've been in periods where you can't put a foot wrong. You're sending prices out, you're getting them come back, you think we can put our price up, we can do whatever we want, we'll win jobs. And then the following week, the following month, you put prices out and not one of them comes back. You don't even get a response as to say they're not going ahead. And you're like, wait a minute, last week or last month, we were basically winning everything that we could possibly price, or thereabouts, and now we're not winning anything. And you think, nothing's changed. It's the same equipment, it's the same costs. Obviously, always bespoke, but it's the same cost roughly. What's changed? Have I just annoyed everybody in the world, or what's happening? And and that is the new solar coaster, I think. And I think it's important to say that we all go through that. I was chatting to Dan at DMH about this, and he was telling me about a period where he could put a foot wrong, and I've been through it where I couldn't put a foot wrong, and we're at the point at the minute where I had a list of jobs that we priced, and we've been chatting to them, and some of them have all but confirmed, like literally everything's about to go ahead. We just need that email to say, crack on, do your DNO application, ready to go, we'll pay the deposit. That's literally the last little bit we need. But we've got all these customers that it's obviously an investment, and they've got to think about it. They've got to be happy with the system, with us, with spending the money. I totally get that. We never try and push anybody into getting something they don't want. But when the teetering on either going with you out of the competition or just going with a system, and you're there and you've got this list of 10, 15 people that you think, some of these are going to confirm this week. You get to Thursday. And you think, I've not heard of hardly any of these. And you think, what's happening here? And but I also know that through experience in this world, in this market, that next week 90% of them can come back and go, happy to go ahead. And suddenly your world has changed in the course of a week. And that for me is the new solar coaster, because it's based off erratic things. Who knows what made them go ahead that week and not the week before. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's good for me having the foresight of these conversations, because at the minute we're on a bit of a hot streak, and I'd be running around, we've cracked this now, let's employ loads of people, get some more vans, we'll get a sales crew. It's just going to go through the stratosphere, because we're on that little wave. The last couple of weeks we've had a lot of confirmations, lots of inquiries coming in, and we're doing pretty well in kind of converting those. But I'm well aware that that's not going to be the case, and we'll go back to the struggles just like anyone else, where you have those kind of ups and downs. You find the right customers, your marketing's maybe on point, the algorithms on social media work in your favour. I don't know what the secret sauce is, I wish I did, but I don't think any of us really do. And
if you find out, let me know.
A lot of it's probably just blind potluck, isn't it? You can try your best in the world to do whatever it is you're doing, and you just have to accept that it's just the way things happen. Like as Kimmy says, Kimmy the Sparks, it's like the universe working for or against you at any one time. And I agree with her. I think there is elements of that in there. that you are just riding the solar coaster wave as it is now, and I'm not going to be taking on loads of people and getting loads of vans. We're playing it sensible and going steady away still.
Yeah, I think that's the difficult kind of conversation you have to have with yourself and not get too carried away when it is really good, because you know that there are those times where it will dip again. But this is a difficult trade-off, isn't it? It's kind of how you set your company pricing structure, because suddenly you're thinking, right, okay, well, we're doing well. Our overheads are spread across many different jobs now. So can we potentially look at rearranging that pricing, because maybe that'll help us do some jobs that we would have lost out on price, where they wanted to use us, but we could maybe make those a little bit cheaper. Or it's a case of we're winning so many jobs we can actually push our margins up a little bit now, and we can make those jobs a little bit more expensive because we're in high demand. And so getting that right is very difficult when the reason you are busy is because of a solar coaster, where it can be a news story where there's potential blackouts and people are scared and want to get their home secured, or it can be something else where, I don't know, a lot of kind of green news stories where people are really emotionally pushed to do something green. It can be a scaremongering thing on energy prices. It can just be the world of the wars and stuff that are going on, and people want to secure their homes, and in case there's another energy spike, all these things. So it can be based on so much that it's how do you set or forecast your business to work with such horrible variables. And that's kind of the position that I'm in, because my headspace with all these inquiries that we're still getting lots of inquiries, but I need the conversions for all that work to be worth it. And I think that's the real difficult thing, because you're thinking, well, what can you do? What am I doing wrong here? Is it just that, is there something that you are doing wrong, that I am doing wrong, that is causing these customers not to go ahead? Or is it more that customer was never going to go ahead with us because they were already, like, just the way that it was always going to work out, the path was always going to be that they weren't going to go ahead with us. There's nothing, apart from installing it for free, there's nothing that I could have done to win that job. And that's something that buzzes around in my head a lot, because if there's something that we're doing wrong, I want to know about it and fix it, because the company's only going to be around if we're fitting jobs. And we're busy with work. Like, this isn't a plead for work. We are busy, but as we've discussed, you need those sales now for in 3 months' time.
I think that's the thing maybe consumers aren't aware of, like the effort that we put into proposals first and foremost. I'm speaking on your behalf as well, but I know you do, and I do. We really put a lot of effort into those proposals, producing them, making the little videos alongside them, like you say, and going the extra mile, for want of a better phrase, with that. And then to be ghosted sometimes, it can hurt, and you need to give yourself a bit of a reality check on that. And I've done this myself, speaking personally, where I might get a price for, I don't know, a AstroTurf garden lawn, or a kitchen or a bathroom or something, and you might get 4 or 5 quotes, and I'm not going to promise that I reply to everyone within a week when I'm reviewing those. You have your normal daily life going on, and lots of these customers will be the same. To them, it isn't everything. They may be getting 4 or 5 different prices and then spending a couple of weeks to chew it over. They might have a holiday, and all of a sudden you can start to overanalyze things at that level. And again, speaking personally, I definitely do that. And the other thing they might not be aware of is the effort you have to put in to keep your workflow going, because of the way the G99 process works and the delay and lag between being able to start a project. Even if you win it and you've got a quiet spell in your diary, it could be that, I don't know, I'm having a 2-week lead time for you guys out on site being busy. Don't think that's where either of us are, but it could be at some time, and you might win 4 or 5 jobs, but you still can't land on site to do anything about them for maybe 45 days in the best circumstance. And it's that kind of acknowledgement maybe at that level that it's not as easy as it maybe seems, where you are getting a price for a new bathroom and it's just like, it's going to be $8,000 and we can come and do it in 2 weeks. It's not. We have to do lots of paperwork, lots of admin, lots of effort. And if you are out there and you've got installers proposing systems for you, even if you're not going to go ahead with them, maybe just let them know, because it is a big deal to us.
Yeah, it is. And certainly, myself and we don't have like a massive sales company that is pushing these things out. So like for me, when me, Jess, and we've got Alex who does our pricing, and we're just taking on a new guy to do some more designs, like a junior designer. All of that is money that we spend as a company. It's all part of our overheads. But when there is this busy spell like there is now, when you've got a family-run company, it means everything to that company that it's successful. Not only for the financial stability, that's obviously a really important part, but it's about there's always a time trade-off when it's your own company. And for me and the wife, Jess, who's also director in the business, when we're going through these really heavy inquiry spells, which are fantastic, I'm not trying to wish away those inquiries, absolutely not. But you go, well, actually, instead of us spending a bit of time together, on the sofa, watching a bit of TV and just chilling for a bit, we'll both be not speaking to each other, sat next to each other on the laptops, tapping away, trying to get, find out a price of a new system, or doing some research on a new system, or what have you. And you're trying to make the most of this high on the solar coaster, because you know that at some point that then drops down. And if you haven't secured the work for in 3 months' time, when you do get your DNO and when you've got the install capacity and everything like that, then you feel it then. And when you're new to the industry, you don't always realise that you are affected by what happens now in 3 months' time. And so that's why during the highs, you've got to really capitalise on it as much as you can, because when the lows come, you're obviously then securing the work during that low point for 3 months' time-ish. So even if there's another high, that's still not going to affect you right now if you are quiet. So that's why it means so much to us that we win. That obviously we win the work, but also we find out if there's something we're doing wrong. And that's why we tend to ask people, can we get a bit of feedback? And some of the jobs that we've lost over the past week or two, which you always lose some, haven't been based on price, weirdly. Usually it is, because for us as a company, we don't try to be the cheapest, but usually it's that's caused it. But it's like the universe has been against us a little bit on it. And I don't mean that as like a bleeding heart thing. It's just weird how sometimes just things happen where the DNO comes back and it's completely, they'll only allow a tiny system, so the customer just scraps it. And you've already at that point done all the work on the DNO. You've already, potentially procured some of the kit ready. You've done, paperwork and all of that. You've done obviously the proposals back and then suddenly, because of one decision from the DNO, it's all scrapped. It's gone. And that's all money that you could have been spending on a job that was going to go ahead. So it's a nightmare. And it's not just me that faces it. We all face it if we're all part of this renewables world, and it's very difficult to manage.
There'll be installers out there listening. If there's any plumbers listening, they'll probably feel the same in their sector as well, that we do, as small business owners, do a lot of this work on evenings, on weekends. I know I've chatted with Dan it was last weekend or the weekend before. We were both in the office working on proposals because we'd been too busy in the week. We're trying to catch up a little bit, and that's not unusual. It's just the nature of the beast in those places. As much as you want to try and have a nice life and family time, there's occasions where you've got to cast your net wide. You've got to try and grab as much as you can while you can when you're on those hot streaks and the inquiries are coming in, and really try and secure your business's future and your employees as well. I feel that as responsibility to people who work in my company, whether they're related to me or not, that their salaries depend on how we perform. And that's the same, I'm sure, for other people watching this. And that's why we make those efforts, and hopefully you get the rewards down the line from that. But it's really very, very difficult to try and get that right all of the time. To be focused when you're quiet and do the things you should be doing, where you're working on your business and maybe not worrying about everything quite so much. And then when you're busy, accepting that you do still need that time for yourself and not really over-analysing and working, because it's so easy to fall into that trap. It's not going right at the minute. I've got to work harder. I've got to do more. We need to contact more consumers or whatever, put more videos out, do all this stuff. And none of it is really maybe having the effect you think it is, other than making you feel worse. It's a fine line, and I've pushed it too far the other side of that line in the past myself. So I'm speaking from experience on that one, and it's hard. It's not easy, and we're on such a hot streak at the minute. We've got a job next week. We're off patch in Lincolnshire, and last week we had a customer ring up. I'm outside your area, but we've seen your content. Want you to come and work with us? Really big system. Would you be able to come and do a survey on it though? Because I'm keen to get ahead. I'm like, I don't actually think we maybe will be able to. Gave me his address, and it's 2 minutes away from where we're working next week. You just can't. That's the universe of things, as Kimmy says, because those things just don't happen, does it? It's like, so that's that. So we're at that solar coaster on the top. I'm gonna cling on to it as long as I can, but with full anticipation that I'm going to be on the other side of that soon. And it's the nature of the beast. And I'll be trying to work too hard again, and it's trying to find that even keel. I do believe, as I am very new to this industry, maybe it's still very green to it, but I do think we'll get to that more sustainable, even area when we get some actual policy from government around this mass adoption that I think is going to come through unlocking of the grants, maybe beyond heat pumps or whatever they're going to do, and we'll be able to plot with a bit more consistency, and that ultimately will deliver better quality for customers and happier installers. We should be thriving, well paid, growing nice businesses, and all doing well. That's better for everyone, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And you know, as soon as I don't wish the low on you for when the carriage comes down. I know it always tends to be, but I'll be ready to nick your seat when you get to the station, because I'm ready for some of these to confirm for me, because it just feels like we've done a load of work. But I've been in it long enough to know that it comes back up, but it doesn't make that point where you're not getting the confirmations that you feel like you should normally be getting. And I know it comes back around, but it doesn't make that time any easier. And you're absolutely right. It's kind of not, because I've been doing this over, even after the years I've been in the industry, I've been doing this recently where I've been over-analysing everything in the business as to why we haven't been winning these. And then when you get the feedback from the customers that you didn't win, you realise it has nothing to do with it. It doesn't matter if we put that extra image on the website or we'd produced a video on, the feed-in tariff like I've just done. None of that would have had any effect on that customer not going ahead. But that is the solar coaster. And the risk is that you push one way or the other too much, and you end up finding yourself hating the business that you've worked so hard to create, because you're thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? For no reward. And then suddenly, literally, it can be the next day, you have all these confirmations come through, and it can be, it's just and that's probably not unique to renewables. That can be bathrooms. You put all these quotes out for bathrooms, you don't hear from anyone for a week or two, and they all confirm. It's probably not directly linked to the solar coaster, but there has been so many external variables as to why you get these ebbs and flows in solar, because of the feed-in tariff, because of energy spikes, that solar is quite unique in the sense that the demand has historically gone up and down. That if it gets to a middle point, I'm a little bit less optimistic than you in that, because I feel like it's something that does chop and change a lot. But if we do get to that consistent level, then that'll be really, really good, because then you can start to compete, knowing that the work is out there. Because I'm sure it puts quite a lot of companies off when they're trying to allocate labour and money and investment in an industry that is quite up and down. Because how do you actually manage that?
Well, that's when I was first looking at it. It was my sons who wanted to come into this sector, not so much me. And it's like, it seems a bit too volatile for, that's my first impression of it. And it does look like that. That's the way it is. And it is really hard if you're a small one-person company and you're looking to get into renewables. I would say cling on to your existing client base and don't put your eggs all in one basket, because you've seen policies that government are coming forward and all the extra funding and stuff. It's just go slow but steady. A lot of companies who are bigger will come into an industry and disrupt it, like Octopus did, where it's like, right, we're going to start installing solar systems, employ a load of electricians, because they can carry that weight. It's quite difficult to just step up and say, I'm going to be a renewables company from the get-go. Because there's all that investment, there's all of the work you need to put in forward from where you are now to start delivering systems. And yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, and I'm glad that we've navigated that path because we really enjoy what we do now, and we're pretty consistent in the grand scheme of things. I don't want it to seem like we're just complaining and moaning because compared to other people out there who really are on hard times in the wider world, we're not. We're doing pretty well, but it's still frustrating. And I think I would say I know from my own YouTube content that we get used a lot for price checking. So there'll be consumers who've shopped around locally and they're kind of on the edge. They maybe had 4 or 5 prices and they maybe think they've been ripped off or they're not getting a good spec on equipment. So I know I'll have a go on YouTube and I'll get this person to send me a price in and see where we're at. And I bet you get that as well. And the other people out there with content do. And we still put the same work into those proposals, knowing that. And then you never hear back because they were never going to use you anyway. And that's fine. I make a call out on every single video I post. Get in touch if you want a proposal. So I'm asking for it. It's like, you can't complain when it doesn't go your way.
No, and equally, having the proposal, having the work come in is the critical, it's like the lifeblood to any company of having those leads come in. And the strange thing about solar is that it's so sporadic. It can come in because of a news story, like we've mentioned. It can come in for all these different reasons. And the thing that I'm finding challenging in Oval is kind of finding that happy middle ground of having the team there to work really hard when it's this high, but then also being able to repurpose them to have the transferable skills to do other things in the business when you're in the low. Having someone that can come in and do, knows a bit about how to sort the warehouse out, like in terms of like structuring, kind of organising that so that we know where everything is and doing like the stock checking easier and all these weird things that you have to do as a business, or having someone that's quite good at changing websites and all this sort of stuff. So that comes into a lot of my hiring kind of thought processes, because I know that it does ebb and flow, but equally it doesn't help. It just pisses me off when I'm in that ebb and flow, and I feel like we should be getting the confirmations that we historically have had, even during what seems to be a high. I'm thinking, well, there's a high, there's all these inquiries coming in, but there's a lot of fence sitting, and I want them to drop down on my side of the fence, and that's just being honest. That's how I'm feeling at the minute, and it is a stress. But equally, I know that doesn't affect me now in terms of the amount of work we've got now, because we've secured that amount of work. It affects me and I put a lot of stress on myself with the responsibility to not let the people that I employ down for their wages and their rent and everything. And I'm thinking, right, well, in 3 months' time, we need to be winning jobs now because I need to be making payroll for that time. And don't get me wrong, things aren't that tight, but I don't want them to ever get anywhere near that because, it's just such a stress and that's the stress that everyone has that owns a business. It's tricky.
I think it's important that we talk about it because sometimes on social media, when you're in that game and you're marketing your business on there, you don't really want to emphasise the losses and the things that haven't gone your way, because it's not a good look to consumers, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's like there'll be people out there who you think are flying in life outside of just the electrical industry when really underneath it all, they're maybe not. And it's the illusion of the internet sometimes. And, this conversation we've had here, it's the reality of owning and running a business. It really is. And you'll see those peaks and troughs for whatever sector you're in. I do think the solar sector is an extreme angle on it, but you'll get it if you're in automotive. Like, I'm sure there's issues in there, and even logistics and things. They'll all have their ups and downs, and it's how you try and navigate it without totally destroying your self-confidence and self-worth while you're riding that downward slope on it. And there'll be other installers out there who maybe you're in those kind of places and worse. And that's why, again, the conversation we had with the Electrical Industries Charity, where there is support for people if you are really, really struggling, where you can go out and seek that help. And also just that there is other people out there going through exactly the same thing, and it is totally normal. And you'll come out of it, you absolutely will, and you'll start achieving those wins that you're maybe not getting today.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's exactly where it ends up, because it's happened time after time, and I know it happens time after time because we've I'm so paranoid about making sure that everyone is paid and not letting people down that we keep a chunk of money there that is just sat there for when we potentially hit these troughs. And I wouldn't say that we're in a trough at the minute. We are. We've got so many inquiries coming in, but we just need the conversions. But I know that I've got this money there to cover the wages, the rent, everything that we need. So it's about understanding the market you're in. Again, it doesn't make it easier when you're going through that tougher period, but understanding the market you're in and that it does ebb and flow probably more than any other industry that comes to mind at the minute, that you need to make sure you've got that. You can't be running at the skin of your teeth in an industry like solar and like renewables, because the work is just not consistent enough for you to just go from hand to mouth, because that's where these companies fail with cash flow and all, just the VAT thing that I think we've covered in previous podcasts, where you basically, we've been withheld like 20% of your of everything you've bought. They're withholding the VAT for the next quarter, and things like that can, if you're doing any sort of major level, like lots of installs, that can be the difference between you making payroll or not, because you might be tens of thousands of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds if you're doing massive amounts that you're having to bankroll until that point. So you need to have that money in the company, and that's about not being greedy as a business owner when things are really good as well, because the temptation is there when you start to be in those highs to take out that that a lot of money that is sat in the bank, but realise that you need to keep a good chunk of that in and build that bank account up, that savings account up, so you've got it for when you do hit a bit of a low point.
Yeah, it's easy to overcommit, isn't it? Especially when you've got a few deposits come in from projects you haven't even delivered, and you feel like you're on that upward trajectory that you can eject a bit more money from your business than you maybe should. And you're dead right. If you are in this game, you need a wedge there to cover yourself. That can be both financial and stock, because we are exposed to the supply chain if these solar panels vary in price, and we're not able to sit on a whole year's worth of solar panels. It's just ridiculous. But you can have a few pallets of them in where you can dwindle down into them, and it kind of insulates you a little bit from that. Because again, if you're proposing prices 3 months into the future and you're waiting to take delivery of that stuff the week before you fit it, that price when you've proposed might be totally different to what it is on delivery. So it's space as well. There's lots of challenges, and we've gone through it. We tried to do it with not enough space. We tried to do it where you're relying on the wholesalers to look after all of your stock, and none of it works, is the short answer. You do need space and you do need that budget, and it is very, very difficult if you are a one-person company to start delivering this stuff because of those lead times, because of the space, and because of the way the system works and is priced. So do your research before you jump in. It can seem like the golden goose, and it can be. There's lots of people out there who achieve great success, and Sam is one of them, whether he might feel it or not today
Don't feel it.
or otherwise. He definitely is. And it's that exact worry. You're busy for 3 months, 4 months at least, and we're trying to forward plan and make sure that continues, and those kind of stresses will flare up. You'll feel like this again, I'm afraid. And I'll feel exactly like you as well too, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the nature of the beast. I hope other installers out there have got similar experiences, and it isn't just us two.
Well, you're on a high. It might be just me.
No, Mr. Cato maybe needs to come and have a chat with us, because he's been at it a long old time as well. And I'm sure there's people like Ben Curry who's grown his business in the way he has. I bet he's feeling similar things from time to time, and it's not just us. So drop your comments in if you've got similar experiences to me and Sam, and come and put your arm around us at Installer Show, or chin a beer together, because we're winning at the time. Who knows where we'll be? Yeah,
I'll either be really happy or really upset at Installer. We'll see. No, everything's all good, really, in the longer term picture. It's very easy to get kind of narrowed down into your current situation. When you take a longer view, I'm very, very grateful for the amount of people that support this podcast, but also Oval as my company, and and what we do, and the jobs that we will win and we will deliver. But it's tough having a business full stop, and it's tough having a business that is very reliant on a very unstable supply chain. in both materials, but also in leads and conversions and everything. Because like you're saying about the panels, that's a really hot one, and you can fall victim to it. You can think you're doing something really smart, and buy 3-4 pallets of panels, and then suddenly they all drop through the floor because America have said they're not buying any more of the Chinese panels, and then suddenly the panels you bought for £100, £125 a panel are now at 70, or some other weird enough thing, and you're looking out there and you're thinking, I'm now going to have to be up against all these companies that are going to be buying panels fresh at £70 or whatever they end up buying them for, and you're going to either have to take a loss on those panels to compete, but it can work the other way around. You can buy them all at that 70, say, and they're £150. So you can win on it and you can lose on it, but it's just trying to make the best decision you can at the time and not beating yourself up about that decision because you've made that on the information you had at the time, and you've made it with the best intentions, and I should maybe listen to my own advice.
It can happen, can't it? You could buy some panels and then all of a sudden next week someone invents one that's the size of an A4 piece of paper and chucks out 600 watts.
Yeah.
And everyone wants them. Or
Yeah.
you've stocked up on inverters and batteries, and another manufacturer comes out with something even better, and all of a sudden you can't sell them for love of money. And we're seeing that with some of the stuff we've taken stock of. So I got that T-shirt on that front, and then you kind of, do we drop the price on that stuff just to get rid of it? It's like, it's tricky, isn't it? It is. It's not easy. But I enjoy it. I wouldn't have it any other way, and
I would. No, I wouldn't.
Probably I would. Yeah, probably that's the wrong thing to say. I would have. I'd like to see a more stable sector, but it ain't going to happen. You already told me.
Well, hopefully you're the exception to the rule, Mark, and I really hope you are, because we need someone to break through that solar coaster and just keep riding it up to the top, and hopefully it never comes back down. But yeah, I feel like I've aired my grievances. Hopefully, I've not destroyed Oval in the process with any customers that are listening. It's just an honest chat around the challenges of having a business in this sector, and it is really tough to manage it. But equally, it's blooming brilliant when it goes well, and I absolutely love it. And I know so many installers that I chat to and see at these shows like Installer, absolutely love the industry because of the technology, that just how it all works, and the feeling you get from installing that and leaving a customer with a system that's covering their bills. And let's face it, if it wasn't cool, like if it wasn't a really cool technology, none of us would put up with a solar coaster. Like, why would you set a company up if price of sockets was like this, or like cable where it's going through the floor? People would just be like, nah, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do something else. We do it because we love the technology, we love the specialism and everything, and that is what keeps us in it. And otherwise, we'd sack it off and do something else, I'm sure.
That's a great positive to end that chat. And I think, like, we had one yesterday handing over to a customer, a nice east-west split, and it's been glorious sunshine today. They filled the battery up this morning. They were charging their EV up all day. They'd pumped out like 30, 40 units, I think, from it in late March.
Lovely.
And you're just like trying to get into their mind that that's a solar coaster, mate. That's the peak of your experience of it, because the sun comes up and down in that sky through the course of a year. But yeah, that's what we do it for, seeing the reactions of those customers, getting the thrill of the system you've given them at the end of the day. It might sound a bit cheesy, but that's how it feels. And hopefully this little conversation has resonated with you all out there, and it's Sam's turn to take us out. Yeah,
well, thank you very much for being my counsellor during this session, and thanks to Mark for rubbing it in. No, I'm joking. No, it's been a really good conversation. I've really liked, and I think it'll probably resonate with a lot of installers that are new and experienced to this market, that it does ebb and flow, and that you can ride it out as long as you plan your business right, and don't be too hard on yourself. I'm going to take my own advice and relax a little bit. But thanks very much for watching another episode of the Renewables podcast. Hope to see you all at Installer Show, and come and have a look at our stand, and come and have a chat to us. And thanks again for Installer Show and Proteus for basically sponsoring and helping the show continue. If you have any questions, or you want to share experiences about the solar coaster, then please leave those in the comments, or reach out to us as well. Please like and share and subscribe. We've got the subscriber club now as well on Spotify, where you can sign up to release the next 2 episodes in the list. So if there is a split episode where it's 2 parts, you can continue listening straight away to the next episode to keep that content fresh in your head. Thanks very much again, and we shall see you on the next one.